We welcome you on behalf of Profeedback Cost Action. I am Gábor Balázs, the chair of the Cost Action and the director of Hateful Research Institute from Budapest. Before we start today's discussion, let me introduce with a few words the Profeedback Cost Action for those who has no connection to us before, and maybe after this webinar would like to join to us in the next period. This is a network of almost 300 researchers and practitioners in policy evaluation. We're representing 42 countries in Europe and in its neighborhood. The aim of this cost action is to foster knowledge sharing among evaluation practitioners and researchers in order to improve the quality and the methodological scrutiny of evaluation and of also the awareness of evaluation in policy making. Overall, our goal is to support better policies with this knowledge sharing and methodological improvement activities. What we do in cost action, we had conferences in every half year in the last 4 years. The last conference will be on youth policy and education policy in Budapest in 18th and 19th of June. So if you would like to join us in this conference, then look at our website and you can register and join us. We organize training school for young researchers and young practitioners in evaluation. We have webinars like today's webinar and workshops, mainly methodological issues of evaluations, so how to do it and why to do this in this way. We provide grants, mobility grants and conference grants, young and senior researchers as well, and we have some books and policy briefs and other publications also. So if you would like to learn more about Profeedback Cost Action, what we do and how to join us, then please visit our website, profeedback.eu, or you can find us in many social media channels as well. But the main reason to gather today is not to listen to me, but to learn about the evaluation practice of 3 countries, Ukraine, Serbia, and Lithuania. So I give the floor to our moderator of today evening, Sari Nalapi. Floor is yours, and please organize this discussion today.
Yes, thank you very much. So my name is Sari Rannanpää. I'm an evaluator from Finland. I am part of the Profeedback, actually managing committee as well, but also the working group number 3. And I've been also taken part in I have also been teaching in the training school together with Olha last year in Serbia, where Mihailo was hosting the training school. And just as a couple of reminders about how we operate today. So we will have 3 presentations, and after each presentation, we will open the floor for questions. And you can submit your questions either through the Zoom chat or by raising your hands. And if you raise your hands, I will then give you a floor in the order that the hands were raised. And we will also get some questions through LinkedIn Live, and they will be coming to me to my earpiece separately, and then we can have them. Yes. Without any further ado, I will let the first presenter take the floor. We have Dr. Olha Krasowska from the Ukrainian Evaluation Association. And Olha, you can tell a bit more about yourself, and the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Sari. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to see good friends and new faces. I will share my screen. It's a bit slow, but I'll start talking. Yes, I'm Olga Krasowska. I'm a former head and now board member of Ukrainian Evaluation Association. At the moment, I live in the UK because of the war in Ukraine. I work for a local authority here in the UK, but I continue to do my consultancy in Ukraine. And I do want to make the presentation as practical as possible because it's a real evaluation that was happening last year and a couple of previous years, because I had the luxury to be involved in the midterm and the final evaluation. Unfortunately, I still can't share my screen, so I just have no option. Just a couple of more minutes. Just don't give me this opportunity to share. Don't know why. Okay, I will.
How about now? I'll just try now.
It's the same. Oh, now it works. Just a second. So can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So I will be moving. So if it stops moving, just tell me if it's
Yes.
not. So don't want to spend more time about myself, talking about myself. So the project I would like to share with you today, it's a project dedicated to the inclusive labor markets and jobs creation for Ukraine. It's pretty interesting project. I really enjoyed working with it. But the poor project went through all possible challenges in its lifetime because when we had midterm evaluation, it was COVID time, and we had to postpone our evaluation field mission a couple of times just because we really wanted to have it in person rather than online. And when we had a final evaluation, the war already started. So, all possible challenges we experienced during this evaluation, but we still managed to do this. Unfortunately, I don't know why it is the case in Ukraine, but especially with my evaluation, I very rarely have a chance to share results of my evaluation because they are usually confidential. At the moment, the final report, even despite of the fact that we had this evaluation last year, but it's still not published, but we have a midterm report published. So and on my last slide, there is a live link, and if you're interested in the real report, you can have a look from there. So this project, Inclusive Labor Market for Job Creation in Ukraine, was a pretty long one. It was for 7 years. It wasn't initial idea, but it was extended a couple of years. It was a pretty big project in terms of money and duration. As I said, it was almost $9 million. The donor was Danish Ministry of Foreign Affairs under the Danish Neighborhood Program, and it was implemented by International Labour Organization. What was interesting about evaluation for me personally, it's also because both for midterm and for the final evaluation, it was joint evaluation. And my colleague, Frank Ronkel from Denmark, he was commissioned by Danida, and I was commissioned by ILO. And for me, it was pretty interesting combination from the very beginning when you had evaluation jointly commissioned by donor and by implementing agency. The final evaluation I will be talking today was held last year from March to May, and we had offline mission in Ukraine in April, followed by the debriefing. So yeah, it was likely for us, it was relatively quiet in Ukraine in terms of shelling. So we did have this luxury to have an offline mission. This project, yes?
Sorry, your slides don't move. Have you tried moving them?
Yes, it moved for me. Is it still there?
No, it's stuck on the kind of preview mode. Okay,
Let
now.
me start one again.
It moved. Yes, sorry.
It moved.
Yeah.
Is it okay now?
Now we don't see anything. We only see you.
Yeah. It's also good, but maybe not as good as to see the presentation as well. Let me start the process again. And can you see it now?
Yes. Now we see the project Inclusive Labor Markets.
Is it moving now? Because I'm changing the slides.
It's stuck at number 3. No, it's number 5. Maybe
Okay,
slowly move, but
no,
okay.
it's fine, but I just will probably keep it not the full screen, that it will be easier.
Yeah. Okay.
So at least you will be able to see something. The project is pretty complex, and its overall objective was to improve the employment opportunities for pretty broad audience, like young people, women, and other individuals that were at risk in the labor market. And it's actually had 3 main blocks. So the first one was dedicated to the strengthening on employment services, and it was also one of the challenges because during the lifetime of the project, the social service was changed from being under Ministry of Social Affairs, and it was moved to Ministry of Economic Development, and then there were a couple of acquisition of ministries. So it's always brought colleagues to the point that they need to come to know new people in ministries. Also, the second part of the project was dedicated to the skill development, and I will be talking about this a little bit further, that it was all about like starting the business, and ILO has its own approach and its own license program, how to start and improve your business. And actually in the project, they covered pretty a lot of people going through this training program. And the third part, it was dedicated to the social dialogue and collective bargaining. So it obviously, like mentioning those 3 parts, it's obvious that they had a little bit different stakeholders and beneficiaries that again make the project is pretty complex and challenging in terms of approaching for the evaluation. The theory of change itself was pretty massive. You can see that it takes the whole slide. I hope its slides are changing now, and you can see the slide number 4 with the theory of change on it. So it doesn't include any numbers, the theory of change. I do not plan to read it for you because it's really long. It's actually combination of all 3 main objectives for this project. So you can see here like improvement of public services, skill match making, and social dialogue. And it's actually had to lead to coherent and mutually reinforcing of policies at the level of labor market, and thus lead to the more inclusive labor markets in Ukraine. So it's easy to say, but it was very difficult to achieve, because despite of the fact that those things were connected, they were delivered pretty like relatively independently, and it was pretty difficult to understand and difficult to prove the impact from from our side as evaluators. But the project was really good in terms of how they were delivering and how they were coping with the different challenges they had. When we comes to the evaluation itself, they were pretty long list of specific objective for evaluations, including like pretty standards, like to see how project was doing in terms of achieving outputs, outcomes, to understand impacts, to make recommendations, to understand the relevance of the project design and its alignment with the beneficiaries' needs. ILO has its own specific requirement for evaluation. It means that you need to identify lessons learned and potential good practices. So it's pretty obvious that a lot of evaluation need to do so, but in terms of ILO, they have a very specific templates for this, so you need to follow these templates, and they usually become public. One more specific of this evaluation was that because this project paid a lot of attention to social dialogue and social partners, and Denmark was a donor, so we had to talk specifically with Danish social partners to understand their contribution to the project. So there were different blocks of stakeholders, and not the delivery partners, because it was obviously just one delivery partners, but different partners who were engaged in the project implementation. And this pretty long list of specific objectives resulted in 52 evaluation questions. It was pretty challenging itself, but in our situation, when we had the war and for the final evaluation in COVID, for midterm evaluation, and the field mission was pretty limited in time because I had my own limitation when I could be in the field. So it was probably the main challenge, having those 52 questions. And as I said from the beginning, the project target groups is pretty diverse. It was governmental agency like Minister of Economy, Minister of Social Policy of Ukraine, and also Minister of Education and Science of Ukraine, because they were a part of the project dedicated to the matchmaking and reducing the gap on the labor market. The project was working with VET education and STVET schools. And actually, was probably one of the most affected by the war elements, because the project has a couple of local employment partnership, regional, and one of them was Kherson, and some of the facilities were occupied and it was lost. But then project has come to reorienting, geographical oriented, and then Kherson was deliberated as actually, despite of this like enormous pressure on the stakeholders, they continue to deliver this local employment partnership even in Kherson. So like partly it was damaged, but like they continue to deliver the project, and I really embarrass them for this. So talking about other target groups, it was like social partners, it was national mediation and conciliation service. It was actually newly established in Ukraine, national agency for civil servants, and regional administration and local administration. As I said, because of the war, project had to reconsider the regional dimension, and they had to change some of the location. So the final beneficiaries are also had a pretty long list of final beneficiaries, like unemployed and inactive persons, that you can see from this definition. It's pretty a lot. And actually, with the war, the number of these beneficiaries increased dramatically, because a lot of people were displaced, and they lost their jobs, and they lost their homes. So it brought additional challenges. And it also included, final beneficiaries included like SMEs or employees or self-employed. And it was about like also starting the business and being more independent again. With the war, like for people, especially who came from the eastern part of Ukraine and who used to work in industries, reorientation to having their own business was even more challenging. And it became one of the main focus of the project. So like I'm trying to move like closer to the evaluations and methodology, but just trying to explain a bit more how complex the project was. And it actually had a very, very serious impact on how we approach the evaluation itself. So of course we use a mix of qualitative and quantitative methods, but yeah, I'm also the part of Profeedback Group 3, so I'm a big fan of qualitative method is participatory one. So we in my evaluations, I always try to pay as much as attention to participatory methods as possible. So we had four main phases, like traditional ones for our evaluation, like desk review and literature analysis, preparatory interviews, and survey for people who participated in start and improve your own business, field visit, and definitely debriefing and reporting. So I mentioned majority of the challenges that we had in our evaluation. Just don't want to repeat all of them. It's definitely, the context was pretty challenging itself. For methodology, I also mentioned this long list of questions and pretty long list of target groups because of the complexity of the project itself. We had a lot of cross-cutting issues. It's and gender also oh my God, how like abbreviation for this human rights based approach. So sometimes I just forget words in all languages I speak at the moment. So it happens. And also because it was a combination of donor and delivery partners evaluation. So it's good because it gives us opportunity to engage with all elements. But from the other perspective, it was challenging because donor has its own requirement, even for reporting, like delivery partner has its own requirements. So we had to balance different requirements in terms of how we present our findings, how we present our reporting. So it's, yeah, it happens, but just need to be more careful with all templates and all how things, how you approach your evaluation. So in fact, what we had within our evaluation methodology, we had a pretty big list of semi-structured interviews. And for this project, both for midterm and for final evaluation, we had like preparatory interviews, definitely before we started to draft inception report, and also field work where we conducted the main interviews. In total, it was like 33 interviews. It's pretty, like for this kind of project, it's not a lot, but again, having this limitation in terms of war-related issues, it was pretty a lot, so it was sufficient. We had 4 focus group with mentors in trainings who delivered start and improve your business training. It wasn't really possible to have a focus group as participant because they were like 700 plus or even 900 plus of them. So we had a survey for them. So we had local economic, local employment partnership in 2 different regions, western part of Ukraine. For the midterm, we had different regions when we were talking to partners and discussing their results and possible scalability of lab model. So, and also because some of the beneficiaries who went through this start and improve your business training, they've got some grants to really launch this business. We had discussion with them in Lviv. So as I said, we had survey as well, but unfortunately the survey is again one of my favorite methods. It didn't work really this time. It did perfectly well for the midterm evaluation. We've got pretty nice response rate and we managed to do a proper analysis, but somehow during the final evaluation, we used the same methodology. So we had the same survey, almost the same questions, because the idea was to compare them. But because maybe of the situation, because more time passed after some of the people were involved in this training, we had really low response rate. So it was under 100. So it's not that bad, but having in mind the number of beneficiaries we had, like 100 didn't really work for us. So we had to cancel. So we didn't really analyze a survey. We analyzed just open questions, because we always try in our surveys have not only closed questions, but also give people opportunity to share their thoughts and ideas. So from this limited response rate, we managed to get some quantitative information to some feedback that we use in our report, but unfortunately we didn't really analyze it's like a quantitative part. So yeah, quality we use, but not quantitative. So because it wasn't representative. And then actually, even during the surveys, during the interviews, it was pretty challenging to talk with beneficiaries and stakeholders, because they were so focused on what is happening in the country. So it was for us a challenge to turn them to follow the path and to follow our questions, because sometimes despite what we were asking them, they were still talking about what is happening. So there were some distortion, I would say, from what we got of the, not the distortion, but maybe some strong influence of their like mental health situation and of people, how they survive with the situation. So it really affected not the results, but how we manage the interview. So sometimes we really just had to be in the listening mode and trying to catch some of the information people were telling them and didn't just interrupt them. So it was kind of healing session somehow as well. So we had a field visit, visit, as I mentioned. It was a combination of visit of facilities and some factories, and also continue to having these interviews with governmental ministries, with donors, with some projects, other projects implemented in Ukraine under different donors. How we really manage this big list of evaluation questions, we try to group our stakeholders in the like bigger group, and we develop practical guides, because it wasn't definitely possible to ask all questions during one interview. So we had the specific guides for government, another guide for social partners, another guide for development partners, and one for lab and one for small and medium-sized enterprises. So we developed those guides before we started evaluation, and we try to focus on the questions that is relative to specific target groups, because it definitely we were not. It wasn't possible to cope with all 52 questions. We tried to add some sub-questions to evaluation questions, and because the project had the structure with 3 different elements, with some group of stakeholders, we were discussing particular outputs, and we had this in our evaluation guide. So we discussed this particular outcomes, trying to understand what was happening there. So we tried to focus as much as possible on the specific outcomes and specific activities that was related to this particular group of stakeholders. It was still not manageable, fully manageable, because even if we try to focus on our questions and to have the shorter guides, it was still not enough time to have all discussions during one hour and a half, because it's our general rule when we're talking about interviews, 1 hour and a half. When we're talking about focus group, it's no longer than 3 hours. And again, for us, it was also the issue of safety. So we always give our beneficiaries and interviewees opportunity to send our information and additional information. So we followed almost everyone asking to provide additional information, and in majority of cases we've got this. So it's just we told this, we warned people that we are not able to ask all questions, so please come back to us. So it's sometimes it's easier, because it's people sometimes just became more focused when they are answering questions in the region. Of course, you're in this case you're losing this opportunity to see body language, or to see the face and eyes that sometimes tells you more than written answer. But yeah, we have what we have. So as I said, what helped us in delivering this really evaluation, it's flexibility on all sides. That our flexibility is evaluation team, it's a flexibility of our delivery team. We had 2 evaluators on board, and it was me who was considered as a national evaluator, and my international colleagues, who actually, despite that he is Danish, he speaks Ukrainian. At least he understands a lot, so it was also pretty good, and he knows pretty well a context already, because it's not his first evaluation in Ukraine. He also knows very well the composition of Danish social partners, that is like not really my strong side. So like flexibility in team composition really worked well. In terms of methodology, as I said, the main hints that helped us a lot is having those shorter guides and proper grouping of beneficiaries. Yeah, like as I said, not everything worked because definitely a survey didn't work, but yeah, it's maybe because of the situation. We probably were just very lucky with the delivery team because they were very supportive, and we worked with them during midterm evaluation. And it's actually there are pros and cons in terms of having the same evaluation team for midterm and final evaluation. From one side, we are like, we know everyone, and we feel for the project when we know that they're doing great. But I still believe that we didn't lose our objectivity. So, but also it was a little bit easier for us to talk to stakeholders and beneficiaries because, again, they knew us before and they had a little bit of more trust, and we really developed like this is one of the elements that we had in our evaluation, because in the final evaluation we had to check how our midterm recommendation were taken on board by the delivery team. And sometimes we were able to discuss this with beneficiaries, and they were reporting us back saying, yes, really, the situation was improved. So actually in this project, there were not really they were not bad results in midterm report. So the project was doing really great. So it was pretty easy in this case. And as I said, it was a pretty interesting list of lessons learned and good practice. Some of them came from the midterm report. So we decided that it's good to have them because they're still at work and they proved their scalability and their good results for the final report. What was interesting for me there is that we identified not only positive lessons learned, but also one negative. So we said that it is negative. It just maybe too strong word for this. It's not really negative. It's just very, how to say, difficult to explain and difficult to note it, because the whole idea about social dialogue and having this national tripartite social dialogue, it was difficult in our context, and it had nothing to do with the project ability to deliver what the project delivered. It was about like internal processes in Ukraine. It's about capacity of the council, tripartite council. But we, as evaluators, we thought it's very important just to outline this lesson learned, even if it's not that positive. But project had a lot of really positive lessons learned, and this flexibility that it demonstrated from starting from the COVID challenges and all the adjustment project made, and be going online and then going back offline. So, and then a combination of both online and offline, it really worked pretty well, and good understanding of the client and members' needs, strong leadership and facilitation skills at the local level. So it was about finding right partners at the local level. The Ukraine is a pretty big country, so it's important to understand what is happening on the ground, and unfortunately not always our ministries do understand this. So the project did a great job in finding the right partners and working with them. Social dialogue and online, this industrial relation online courses, it was really good to see how it was scaled, and to hear all the positive feedback. And I believe I was really impressed by that, how the project approach this gap that is in labor market in Ukraine between skills that people have and the real needs in businesses. So they digitalized of curriculum for 10 professions, and it really was used by people, and it was licensed by the Minister of Education and Science. What initially Minister of Education wasn't in the loop, but then it's like, because it was in TVET education, so it was a good partner. and the whole concept of local employment partnership worked really well, and project, as I said, that they did a great job in engagement with different partners. So, and yeah, probably one of my favorite, it's a masterclass for cooks for students. So they had a really great facilities, and they brought our top Ukrainian cooks to teach young persons, and they managed to develop a national occupational standard for cooks, and that is something that is in place, and this is something that is implemented. So this is probably it from my side. I tried to share a bit of our approaches, but also a result of the project, because I'm really proud that we managed to have this project in Ukraine despite of all the challenges. I will stop sharing my screen here, and I probably can see some of you at least. Sorry if I was talking.
Yes, thank you, Olha. I just received some information that we have had some issues starting the LinkedIn Live, so we don't actually have the people in LinkedIn now. But now, if anybody wants to ask a question, you can do so by either writing in the chat or raising your hand. And
We
I think,
have two questions. I see them.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what's wrong with my camera? But don't worry, I'm still here. So,
Yeah.
is it methodologically correct to conduct evaluation with more than 50 evaluation questions? It wasn't us who developed 50 plus evaluation questions. It was requirement from the donor. So it's difficult to say if it's methodologically correct or not. So we had this as a given, and we had to deal with this. We actually had the same for midterm report as well. So I personally, when I commission evaluation, so because that's what I'm doing at the moment, I'm not mainly delivering, but mainly commissioning evaluation. I never give my evaluators like 50 plus questions. So I don't know if it's methodologically correct or not. We negotiated this with donor. We explained it from the very beginning that it's not really possible to deliver. So yeah, we try to answer. So when we were writing our report, we grouped those questions into the blocks. And I'm just trying to partly answer the second question. What would your advice to be the optimum number of evaluation questions? So yeah, I partly answered this question already. So I personally do not like when I have more than 20 questions. If I'm the one who develops these evaluation questions, I probably wouldn't go beyond 20s. Even if I would probably have even less, about like 15. I usually add some sub question as I showed in my slides. Gas can affect. Yeah, it's definitely affect the result of evaluation. I can't say that we really identify this question is more important, this is not, but we try to group them. And when we were writing our report, so you can see this in the midterm report, because as I said, it is available. So we tried to group those questions when we were answering them into the report. So finally, we didn't answer every single question separately. So that was our approach.
Yes, thank you, Olha. Typically in evaluations, the way to do this is to have the main evaluation question. And I think the guidance is that you should not have more than 7, and then they can have sub-questions. But yes, sometimes depending on the tender and depending on the client, there are a lot of questions. But it's always important to then figure out what it is that they actually want to know.
Yeah, we have just one last question. I will answer very quick. So the main takeaways. So first of all, never afraid to negotiate with your donor and client. If you see that the number of questions is really non-manageable, just try to explain this, and sometimes it works. Also, be as flexible as possible in many ways, like starting from developing your questions, how you approach your delivery partners, how you approach people you're talking with. And yeah, so flexibility for me, it's always a key. If you see that something doesn't really work, like in our case, it was survey, try to add something in addition, or just try to take part of what worked. As I said, like in our case, the closed questions didn't work. We were not able to deal with numbers, but we managed to use like open answers. We just use them. So yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Then there was just a new question came in about the overall response rate of the survey and how many samples did you observe? Maybe
I will type.
you will type, yes, okay. And then we will move further. Thank you very much, Olga. We will now have the presentation by Dr. Mihailo Djukic, who is a senior research associate at the Institute of Economic Sciences in Belgrade. Yeah, the floor is yours, Mihailo.
Thank you, Sari. Does it work, the presentation? Yeah. And the slides are, I hope, moving. Yes. Slowly, but steadily. Okay. Thank you, and hello, everyone. So I'm happy for having the opportunity to participate in this Profeedback webinar on policy and evaluations. And so I'm a senior research associate at the Institute of Economic Sciences, and also member of our Serbian independent evaluation network of evaluators, local evaluation community called INES. So basically, I will share with you experience in evaluation, as I was a part of the team who evaluated regional project funded by Danish Refugee Council, which provides support to the social and economic inclusion of the immigrants in the Western Balkans. And I will speak about the evaluation of the whole project, but also providing some insights for Serbia, as a researcher and evaluator from Serbia. I was mostly involved in this component of the project. So the evaluation has been conducted by the ITM consulting company from North Macedonia, and I was, as I said, a project team member engaged in conducting interviews, data collection, analysis, writing reports, and many other things. So in general, the aim of this project was to address common migration related challenges in the Western Balkan region, and particularly focusing on access to social and economic rights of this very broad group of beneficiaries. So a couple of words about the context. So the evaluation occurred last year, and we actually focus on the period also 2021, 2022, 23. So during also covering also a part of the COVID period. So we need to know the context and strong immigration pressures that of course happened also in the Western Balkan region. So we have that Open Balkan Initiative and the Berlin process which could also intensify migrations within the Western Balkan region, and that is actually the idea of a project to let's say fit into the identified gap in the current policymaking approach, and try to provide additional support and strengthen the capacities of the civil society organizations that were engaged in supporting many other stakeholders interested in the migration issues, but mainly state institutions and local actors. So inclusive policies, non-discriminatory practices are very important for sustainable development, and policymakers in Serbia and the region are not experienced in supporting immigrant population, and sometimes do not perceive sufficiently and adequately importance of supporting immigrant population. So this is probably due to underdeveloped institutional legislative frameworks, but also lack of experience and maybe yeah, definitely lack of experience. So I will also say a couple of more words about the project. So the idea of the project was to contribute to strengthening capacities of the civil society organizations. As you will see, not so many of them are engaged and experienced in working with this population subgroup. So subgroups and the idea was also to provide greater support to policy-making processes, contribute to enhancing inclusion of foreigners in the Western Balkan societies, and slightly change the perception of the local population as well. So lead partner was from North Macedonia, and each country had one or two implementing partners like civil society organizations working with on project activities at the national level. So here I will briefly present the activities, project activities, and then I will present some very brief and simplified theory of change and our methods and results. So let's start with the activities. So there have been preparatory activities, of course, as we have in most of the projects, and after that, identification and assessment of the civil society organizations and their capacities. So the idea of the project was to assess capacities of the local civil society organizations and try to identify which civil society organizations are capable of providing high quality support for the foreign workers and immigrants, to work on capacity building and networking activities. So I'm only listing the main activities, but each of these has several sub activities, like, for example, capacity building is also related to developing training materials, conducting training of trainers activities, and many others. So sub-granting, implementation of 4 national per country projects and 6 regional projects. So our task was actually this activity to evaluate these 24 national projects for project per country. Other activities are policy analysis, advocacy activities, and monitoring and evaluation. So basically, as you will see, the theory of change and is as follows. So donor expect that in cooperation with local partners, project will be able to identify and assess capacities of 90 local civil society organizations, establish capacity building mechanisms and activities, encourage networking, provide financial support for piloting small interventions at the local level, conduct policy analysis, develop advocacy materials, and then the civil society organizations will be capable of developing and implementing high quality policy interventions. And after that, somehow it will start advocacy it will activities, some additional efforts to change the local policy making context, put these issues of strengthening foreign workers' rights, access to socioeconomic rights at the local policy agenda. And in general, the overall idea is to strengthen fundamental rights and including economic and social inclusion, and to influence, have some positive influence on the local sustainable development in Western Balkan countries. Of course, it is very complex, a lot of very ambitious ideas, but I try to simplify here as much as I could. Just a second to see whether the next slide will come. Okay, so this is very simplified presentation of the project idea and the theory of change that I will share with you, just to show you what is the overall project proposal, project idea, and the context. And here our task was to evaluate this part of the project, so re-granting for grassroots civil society organizations, and evaluation of the 24 national projects that have been implemented, in order to assess whether these projects are efficiently, effectively implemented, whether they contributed to strengthening capacities of national partners and engaged civil society organizations, and what was the result in terms of changing the local policy context in terms of access to social and economic rights and many other things. So here we focused in Serbia on we evaluated 4 national projects, just to give you an example what kind of projects are where these are. So I will show you here very briefly project ideas of each of these 4 projects. So the first one was support provided to growing population of foreign workers in Rasina district. It's a small central part of Serbia, a couple of municipalities who are facing challenges with integration, working condition, assessing local services for foreign workers who become very rising population of foreign workers who are lacking information and about their rights, and sometimes don't know who to ask or what are their rights, but having pretty much modest systemic support. The second project was about foreign workers in Novi Sad area who are in completely different situation, but they have challenges of social integration, language barriers, and are facing negative perceptions from the local community. They are not they don't have like economic barriers in terms of lack of job opportunities. Most of them have job, but they are not sufficiently integrated into a social cultural life in Novi Sad. And the third one was a project which aimed to provide essential psychological support to vulnerable immigrant communities located in the asylum centers in Belgrade. So the idea was to provide this very vulnerable group of asylum seekers with critical mental health needs And the final fourth project provided support for socioeconomic integration of vulnerable foreign workers in Novi Pazar, in the southwestern part of Serbia. So as you can see, very different projects and different projects idea, very heterogeneous topics, and this was also a challenge when developing the evaluation methodology and our approach in general. So yes, we here you can find the main objectives of our assignment. So we wanted to assess impact on different aspects of the foreign workers integration. One of the very important, probably the most important thing, sorry, in our job was to assess whether the capacities of the grassroots civil society organizations improved or not, whether the project implementation slightly changed the local policy context and perceptions towards foreign workers and migrants, and finally, what are the overall insights into project implementation, whether there were some marginal or unintended effects, and of course, to obtain some insights about cross-cutting issues. So we followed the OECD criteria, but this was only a framework, and we didn't stick to strictly to the criteria, but yes, that was our landscape. So we conducted interviews with donor representatives, interviews with project partners, and interviews with sub-grantees through two phases, through let's say monitoring projects, and after that, at the very end, after the project activities were completed. That also included field visits. Additionally, we conducted documentation checks, which included also mentoring reports and project reports and related documents like project outputs and other materials provided. So as you could see, we faced many challenges from the methodological perspective, but if I can say we what makes this evaluation participatory, like if we want to make it linked to some theoretical foundations, it looks like some participatory impact pathways analysis, in terms of that we couldn't strictly link inputs to impact, and this relationship was not wasn't possible to analyze from the straightforward perspectives, as one activity, one input could lead to many different outcomes. So in this case, evaluators are actually looking at impact from very complex perspective. So from the project context perspective, we face challenges of the not we, but project team members faced challenges of lack of grassroots civil society organizations interested and capable of implementing local policy interventions in the field, unlike many other areas like youth or maybe labor market or other disadvantaged groups. In this field, civil society organizations didn't have opportunity to implement many projects, that probably the focus of the donors was different in the previous periods. So contrasted capacities of the local civil society organizations, lack of interest of the policymakers and others. So from our perspectives, it was we had to modify evaluation questions a lot of times when communicating with different stakeholders and also observing each project, each of 24 projects, but I presented only 4 for Serbia, as unique, as separate, from a separate perspective. So it was difficult to link results and contribution of the specific project to the achievement of the project objectives and outcomes. So I will very briefly present some of the findings. So first of all, relevance. We think that project perfectly fit into the from the timing perspective and from the local policy perspective into the gap that was identified and a lot of untouched issues existing in the local context, especially during that very intensive immigration wave, and it was very important in terms of raising awareness on the rights issues and community support. So coherence of the project was considered strong, with relatively clear alignment between the objectives set at the start of the projects and the activities that have been carried out. So of course we identify difficulties related to engaging local stakeholders, as previously said, and this also represented a challenge in terms of sustainability efforts and expectations related to that. So it is really questionable whether some initiatives will continue to live after the project implementation of the project is still ongoing. So the effectiveness of the initiative was clear, and let's say we identified many short-term accomplishments, many good results. In general, they were implemented as promised. Most of the projects achieve objectives, and primarily taking into account awareness raising and providing support to the target groups. Also, in terms of improved capacities of the civil society organizations engaged in project implementation. Also, project demonstrated in general good efficiency in resource allocation, and most sub-grant funds were extremely limited. I have to note that as well, but most sub-grantees effectively used available funds within budget and time constraints. In terms of impact, project results varied. So projects mostly resulted with raised awareness on the specific issues, foreign workers' rights, specific needs of target groups. But yeah, there were some limitations related to let's say insufficient support of other stakeholders in that context. A solid commitment to cross-cutting issues like gender equality, inclusivity, and good governance, with some very positive examples. Yeah. So we identified, and this is probably very important and good also for the donors and for local partners, several success stories, like it was the case in Serbia, for instance, with local media involvement and creation a support network for foreign workers through engaging local media representatives that were capacitated and taught about importance of the the immigration issues, foreign workers, challenges, and importance of these topics. And so the project very successfully put these issues into local agenda, which has been considered as a success story. Another example, in North Macedonia, fostering dialogue between institutions and businesses and foreign workers created a lasting network and raised awareness about the critical issues of legal contracts and social insurance. This is a very common in the region, especially for the low paid workers that they don't have sufficient knowledge about their rights, about legal contracts. That you probably know from media many very controversial stories about the experience of workers working for some large companies. So I think this is all from myself for now, and if you have some questions, yeah, I'm here to respond and discuss, of course.
Yes, thank you, Mihailo. There have been some questions in the chat, and I think Olha has been typing here. There was a question about the difference between theory of change and initial program theory. So she answered some of these. Then Svi had also some questions, especially relating to like social inclusion in practice in Serbia and the labor market demands to cope with immigration waves to Serbia.
Okay. So maybe I could start. Sorry, you're looking where? Is it a question from question and answer section or
in the chat?
In the chat. Aha. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So do you enable every immigrant to enter your country? So yeah, I'm not sure if I will respond correctly to this question, but you know, in general, you have to police and border service has right to refuse entrance of the immigrants, but you know that agreements with international organizations, so some of them are only entering in Serbia for a limited period of time and then going to other countries, to other European Union countries. So it is, in general, it is, but you know, there are also illegal immigrants who are entering in Serbia. I don't know by hard data, but in 2022, I think about 50,000 illegal immigrants entered Serbia. So yeah, consider a number of illegal immigrants were present. Of course, these immigration cycles are varying, are not the same over the years, but in this geopolitical context, it's very hard to say what will happen in the future. So the second, what is the ratio between local residents and immigrants? Serbia for many years, for decades, was not considered immigration but emigration country, and this is interesting now that Serbia is, and not only Serbia but also other Western Balkan countries are in desperate need for workers, and somehow these two things are matching. So immigrants are coming to the Balkans and are on that Western Balkan route, but on the other hand, we need workers, and so there about 50,000 working rights were delegated, were commissioned in 2023. So yeah, it is immigrations are now desirable from some from this perspective, from the labor market perspective. So the ratio, directly responding to your questions, the ratio is not high, but it's increasing and very dynamically increasing. So what are Serbia economic needs? Probably economic. It's a typo. Needs for labor. Yeah. Yeah. So I think I responded to these questions. We really need different type of workers now.
Here's there's another question in the chat, or right now in the Q&A, which says that I feel the theory of change not entirely reflected if one can see the findings and conclusions. So this is in Q&A.
In Q&A, I feel the theory of change not entirely reflected in. Yes. Okay, I can of course accept that, but yeah, the fact is that it was much more complex, and it would be hard to present every aspect in 15 minutes. But yeah, okay, we if you have my email, and please send me your questions if you are interested to discuss more about these issues. So I provided only very basic findings, and just to remind you that I focused only on one component, one small component of the project related to evaluating national projects provided to civil society organizations. Other components and other activities related to capacity building and advocacy activities, policy analysis of legal frameworks were not part of our work in this phase.
Yeah. There is one more question in the Q&A, and then I think it's time to give floor to Jaroslav. It's about if the outcomes were not clear, did you try to correct the log frame during the project run in the midterm evaluation?
Yes, we tried we tried to extract the part related to the activities of national projects. So very closely reflecting and referring to the idea of subgranting process of national projects. So that was the idea. So yes, if you look at the outcome explained as I provided within the theory of change, you could have the impression that the activities and outputs are not completely related to this outcome. But yeah.
Yes, excellent. Thank you very much, Mihailo. And now we give floor to Dr. Jaroslav Dvorak, who is a professor at Klaipėda University in Lithuania. Go ahead, Jaroslav.
Do you see presentation? No?
Yes, and it's also on, it's the good view, so we see it big.
Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar, which is organized by Profeedback action together with working group 3, which is focused on qualitative and participatory methods. And also thank you for colleague Olga and Mikhaila, who joined this initiative, and Sari, who is supporting us as moderator, and for sure colleagues from Profeedback, Gabor, Anna, and all other. And I hope colleagues from Working Group 3 also listening us and providing questions. So it's good, especially that we are near the end, and I hope that most of you I will see at the conference in Budapest. My tickets already bought, so I hope to meet you in Budapest in June. But I would like to present you part of our evaluation, which were done in Lithuania also in the end of last year. So it was evaluation of not only public transport services, but some number of services which was ordered by one Lithuanian municipality. For sure, I am probably more focused on some aspects, how it was, what were the challenges and difficulties, because it was quite really big evaluation. Because I have mentioned municipality was interesting to evaluate 5 services which are provided by municipality of Lithuania. It was together with public transport service, also was YOS services, also was social care services, also healthcare services, and it was education services. So because these services are functions of municipality, but today I also more focus on public transportation services. So, but as you can see, the spectrum of services was really very high, and for sure, as our municipalities are not very well familiar with evaluation practice. In fact, we have not real evaluation questions on that, because one of the idea why they decided to order this evaluation, but it was included in the strategic plan, and it means that they need evaluation. So the initiative came that they need evaluation of equality in these services, and nowadays it's also there is a trend in Lithuania. I think that it's because of very active one of our institution on equality. So they are pushing municipalities to take more attention to this issue. That's why municipalities started to really look for some advices in this area. And you can see here the aim. So as you understand, so it was quite big evaluation. So one of the idea it was for sure to look how the services looks according to equality and comply with the provision of the law of equal opportunity of Republic of Lithuania. So including general legal principles, norm, case law, and recommendation for regulatory institutions. And in fact, I am just providing some general information that we looked all 5 services legal acts. In total, it was, you see the numbers, different documents and informational sources. It's not just for public service transport, but it's in general at all. And we also have this qualitative opinion study, like interviews. It was more participatory research. So some of these qualitative, let's say, interviews were like focus groups, but in total we have like not 41 respondents in total, but it's more, but in total 41 like original discussions, because especially in case of stakeholders involved in the participatory. For sure, we have some discussions with different stakeholder groups, and in some cases we have for sure individual interviews. And we also use finally case study methods. And as you can see that in fact we have 7 interviews with employees from municipality administration. It means that we have 5 interviews with those departments who are responsible for each service. Also, we have very interesting in what are the claims are coming to municipality related with services. So we discuss it with people who are working on the front line in municipality, who are receiving different letters from residents, and also we discuss it with a person which is titled coordinator for disability persons. Now in Lithuanian municipalities we have such person. It was established position that each municipality must have coordinator for disabilities person. So here were our main points in employees of municipality administration. Also, we looked for institutions, some organizations which are providing services to residents. We discussed it with heads of supervised institutions. For sure, in case of this municipality, there are not so many organizations which is providing public transport. It was just 2, because one of this was related with management of company of which are providing public transportation. It's municipality company, and also another which was it's organization which is responsible for coordination of the whole public transportation in the municipality, because municipality created this public organization which is taking care separately for organization of public services, and this organization is making public procurement for public transportation services, because also private contractors are involved in the provision of public transportation services. But for sure, main part of public transportation are still in hand of a municipality company. So, and we also discussed it with some specialists who are responsible for service supply, some other things. And for sure, another important group of us, it was different representatives of service users, organizations with persons with disabilities involved in the process. And here we have different situations with interviews, like I mentioned, focus groups, because for sure we ask them not only questions about public transportations, but also about health issue, like for example, associations which are represented seniors. So it usually was like we also discussed it, what are their feeling regarding equality in case of public transportation, about using of health services, and etc. And also we probably in your countries is also people with disabilities, they organized in the same way, because usually they have like people who have problem with different disabilities. They have one organization. People who are blind, they have another organization. So it means that each time you must have a different discussion with them. You must think about different questions, about different issues, and about their different experience related with public transportation. Regarding our evaluation, we started in the beginning with employees from municipality administration. We made in our first step 6 interview. The last was a little bit later, but I think that we are a little bit started with not good way, because in fact I think we must now when I'm thinking about all the process, but it will be better when we start either from representatives of service user or even heads of supervised institution, because in fact it will be good for us that we will come to employees of municipalities later and the end of our research and ask them to look for what is happening, and maybe with more precise questions, because when we started in the beginning, so we see that after the first cycle of this interview, that we have not so many information on what we really want to achieve. And another thing that it's also that when you are asking different associations which are working with people with disabilities, we learn that for sure it's also each time very sensible. You must learn a lot about asking people with some disabilities. For sure, I have previous experience with my colleague, which we done this evaluation. We already done one time evaluation related with people who have different problems with their blind situation. So we have a experience, but it's still each time it's challenging, and especially we observe that in providing information, so it's also very difficult even in that case to understand this what public transportation, let's say, companies, they have problems. Is it a private provider or public provider? Because you know, they are usually say for all public transportation companies, and in this case you have some limitation to whom to address after that your research, and where really it was a problem, because for example blind persons, they really do not know what kind of bus it was, what company operating in this route, and etc. So, and even also in providing information, different blind organizations, not blind, but people with disabilities, they are competing with each other, like who are the best. So this is really each time challenging, for sure. It's interesting for researchers, but also sensible. You must work very careful with this type of groups, and for sure it's I think each time you can learn a lot of how to do this type of evaluation. So it's important. Just give some ideas on research direction and equal opportunities. So there are nowadays 3 trends. So its impact on discrimination on vulnerable target groups. So we can see that usually target audience is disabled people, socially excluded group, racial, religious, and social communities, and may focus to analyze the impact of discrimination and possible preventive measure. Also, another trend, it's discrimination due to behavior of the service providing. Examples of behavior like stereotypical attitude, hostile behavior, refusal to provide services, and some kind of objective to identify change to behavior of service providers to ensure equal services. And the last is structural factors that impact routine procedures, like problem areas, some kind of restriction on access to services, inadequate infrastructure, ignoring the needs of vulnerable groups, and solutions. So, like implemental of limitation of universal design principles and review of procedures. In fact, we have formulated following evaluation criteria. As I mentioned, we were free with question and with idea. We provided municipality with what we want to do, so they accept this. So we have following these criteria, like neutral wording by disproportionate impact, possible assumption and stereotypes, institutional attitudes, and the historical legacy of discrimination, indirect discrimination in the allocation of resources, administrative obstacles and excessive procedural requirements, and insufficient impact assessment of decisions. What we got as a result? So first of all, as I mentioned, we looked for legal regulations of the provision of passenger transport services in any municipality, and for sure we'll look for some aspect of equal opportunity and the documents of institution and companies responsible for organization and provision of these services. And we noted that a number of measures have been regulated in order to ensure equal opportunity. However, there are some kind of indirect discrimination. Usually it's related to advanced payment system and different ticket price, because our equality controller in the countries, they usually argue that those advanced system, electronic system payments, they are usually create discrimination, especially for older people, seniors people, because still, I don't know how it's in your countries, but in our countries still older people, they are not used very often internet or even mobile internet systems, and for sure nowadays especially public bus, they are trying to provide that they are very innovative and they are trying to use card payments even in the bus. For sure it looks very perspective in case of younger residents of the city, but in case of older residents of the city, it can be, as I mentioned, indirect discrimination, and for sure they probably can provide some kind of restriction to use buses for those persons, and etc. And yeah. Usually companies are using different, not company, but municipalities using different tickets prices, and in some cases it can also create some kind of discriminations, especially for senior or young people, and etc. So even sometimes those tickets prices may be intended to protect the residents of the city, but they may be in some way discriminatory towards residents of other cities or people living in suburbs. So also looking to the companies and institution documents on organization of public transportation services, it's also show risk of indirect discrimination related to some kind of planned implementation plans. However, very important to proactively indicate in the plans that they will take care, take in mind equal opportunity measures, and will apply it in parallel with some kind of innovations that are implemented or are planning to implement. Next, we looked for some kind of what are the main topics which are provided to us from interviews. So, usually we found out that it was mentioned following 5 themes, that there are some kind of infrastructure in the bus which has some problems with discrimination. Bus driver ignorance, it was one of the main problem, public transport services and information, and some kind of others. So I shortly provide some evidence on that. So you can see that in case of infrastructure of the bus, it was some claims that there are some technical aspects, like especially electronic validators, especially for people with disability or people with blind people. So it usually the problem that they are expecting to have all these validators, electronic validators on the same place, and usually it's very complicated to them if the bus are not if the bus are different because they have this like standard behavior, those people, and for sure if something is changing, it's sometimes for them very challenging, and each time they meet this big challenge. One of the big issue that was mentioned very often, it's bus driver ignorance. These are the persons who actually represent municipality. For sure they are working in municipality company, but we have also private suppliers which are providing services. So yeah, this is really very challenging, and bus driver ignorance was mentioned a lot of time. And during the research we also meet with such situation that it was the case that one blind lady which came from our city to this municipality to walk and to walk, and after that she used public transport. But she has special dogs which is trained for her support. And according to the rules of municipality, you are not eligible to travel in the bus together with dog. And when she came back from her walk, we saw she used the bus, and after that it started conflict with bus driver. And it was after that a big problem because bus driver tried to call to police or to put to how to say, to move her from kick out from the bus. And for sure, after that, she shared this information about this incident on the Facebook, and it was like big scandal that, oh, look how it's really worked. So it was really a big challenge and for research. And also one case we identified this what is not was famous due to our discussion with social workers and the schools. So it's also that drivers are not very good in understanding, especially youth, if they have some kind of problem with autism, so they are not able to identify such person, because one young boy, when traveling through the bus, started to shouting, and after that the bus driver also kicked him out without any trying to understand what is happening. So you see, because they have not actually information how to deal with that. So also there is some kind of lack of standardization. Also, some kind of information is still needed in accessible format. So especially for people with disability and visual impairment and etc. And in fact, we looked for some contextual factors and the impact on the drivers, because I have mentioned it, why in fact drivers are not, it's so problematic to them deal with that problem. So we found out that they have high workload and time pressure, especially drivers serve hundreds of passengers daily and follow tight schedule. Any extra task may cause delays, and they have limited time to provide additional assistance to passengers with special services, special needs. Frequent conflicts with passengers and added responsibilities for rule non-compliance. It's usually related with their psychological pressure. So drivers sometimes even avoid situation and etc. Also, insufficient trainings and preparation. So they need to, in fact, training very often, and we saw that after those accidents which happened, the companies started to organize trainings, but they must do on different days and must be regularly, because also the companies meet with the staff change. And I think that especially good when they are cooperating with different associations which is related with disabilities, etc. And for sure, they have pressure from high-level institutions, so there are some strict safety compliance requirements that are not always suited for a real-life situation. And finally, we'll look for different situation of formal and substantial equality in public transport. And here you can see also some evidence and examples. Like, for example, respondents mentioned that in case of formal equality, that all public buses in municipality are low floor and accessible to people with disability. And it means that, in fact, municipality is making ensure that public transport meet general accessibility standard, but does not consider different needs in context of passengers. Transport law provides discount for certain groups. Public transport rules are the same for everyone. Prohibition of budget. So rules are applied uniformly, but may not accompany individual circumstances. Substantive inequalities, so bus drivers are trained through special courses, including assistance of passengers with disabilities, but it means that it requires adapting practices that help understand and address specific needs. and drivers who refused to assist passengers with disabilities justified it due hygiene or safety concern. So they have fear of infection, and in these cases, substantive equality would require additional measures like hygiene tools or training to eliminate such barriers. Responsible municipal institutions or companies cooperate with disability or senior organization to ensure more accessible public transport services, and this reflects efforts to create real conditions to equality access through partnership understanding. And there were some categories between, so like a driver transports 1,000 passengers a day and cannot respond to every individual situation, so usually it's formal equality asks drivers to follow uniform rules. Substantive equality requires attention to special needs, and behaviors and conditions among private public transport employers may differ, so such cases highlight the need to improve strategies to better balance equality principle. So, and finally, some conclusions I will not read because, like I mentioned, they are more focused on common situation. Maybe you have some questions still on how it was, etc. Thank you for your attention. I thank you also for, as I mentioned, organizers and also colleagues from Profeedback and colleagues who taken part in this webinar. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Yaroslav. I already see that there's one question in the Q&A saying that all the evaluation criteria look very unusual, so not typical in the evaluation that you did.
Yeah, maybe because we are from public administration, and as I mentioned, it's not especially for all this part, but it's just for 5 different types of services. In fact, we also used theory which is more common for public administration. It's theory on street level bureaucracy. So we consider in this case how service users are more like have their what kind of inequalities service users can meet by their let's say connections or ties with street level bureaucrats, because usually in fact they are not meet people from municipality, but they usually meet people who are working on front lines, like doctors in health care institutions, like social workers in social care institutions, like teachers who are also street level bureaucracy, or even bus drivers. They can be considered street level bureaucrats who are meet with users on the front line of the services which are provided by municipalities. Yeah.
Yes. Are there any other questions? No, we still have some time. I don't see any in the in the chat, and I don't see any hands either. Well, I have one question for Yaroslav, and this is like what I would always ask, that what is the most interesting thing about this evaluation for you?
Yeah, really. I think that for me it was really more interesting part. It's for sure, as I always like, it's different opportunity to touch different stakeholders and to look their view from a different point of view on the problem, like equality on the services, because as far for sure for Lithuania, it's still a very challenging thing. We are still learning, and thank you for you sharing material on Finnish experience. It's really some great ideas. But in fact, I like what was mentioned in Finland, that it must be created like a municipality for all, that people feel very good in municipality. I think that this idea of to provide equality and all must to be like people to have good feeling in the place where they are living, that it's really very important. And for sure, as I mentioned, different groups of people, different stakeholders, they want to have this, but sometimes even they are competing for how to say, some kind of better life. But they are providing different angles, and it's really very interesting how different issues look from their perspective, from their point of view, and I guess that it's you can learn a lot from this evaluation. It's difficult to say how municipality will use this report. We hope that maybe in case of people with inequality, the situation will be really better, because maybe they are especially getting more problems with that.
Yes, thank you very much. There was one more question that could you provide some bullet points, or like what other evaluators can take away from the work that you have done? Actually, this could be a question for all of you. That what are the like methodological or some other aspects that you could think of that what are useful for other evaluators?
Maybe Olga can start.
But I answered this question.
I already?
I
already, okay. Mihaela, have you answered it already?
I'm thinking, but okay. One thing that could be useful, if you plan to involve stakeholders, especially policymakers, government representatives, or any administration officials. I think it would be useful to do that in advance, and maybe with the support of donor organization. That would be really helpful. Otherwise, you might struggle if you contact them at the stage when you are organizing a webinar, workshop, or you want to present some materials. It could be late in that phase to attract their attention, but maybe it would be good to check in advance who is interested, whether they're interested, and maybe to do some analysis on how to develop some approach, how to engage with them, how to attract their attention. So this is one. This came up first to my mind.
I think that also that in fact of when you are evaluating especially municipality services on some things, it's good for evaluators to already know that very often that even different services, they have still a lot of connections between them in case special inequality. As I have mentioned it in case of young boy which have some autism problems. So it's means that if municipality, different institutions which are under municipalities, they, how to say, have talked, so it will be more easy for evaluators to discuss because still municipalities still looked like very organized according function. So education services are for providing in just some number of educators. Public transportation, it's public transportation, and they are not talking this hour, but for evaluators, it's very important to how to say, to connect all these services. They will start to discuss together how it's better to organize, because education service very well know about different problems of young people. Public transportation know how to well organize public transportation. They can share their experience between each other, between different groups, between different services, and they have really better results in providing quality. And for sure, I think this is one of the point for evaluator to connect all this group together, that they will start to speak with each other. And I think the qualitative method, participatory methods can assist them to create dialogue between different services.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. There is a question in the Q&A for Yaroslav. It's about the that you have used the concept of equality and not equity. That why is this?
It's coming from translation of our from our law. We have law, and we have controller which is responsible for equality. I think because it's maybe a broader content in this case, that we are coming from the law, which is quite broad, which is taking in mind also employers equality and etc. And also the controller is responsible not only for, let's say, like users experience, but it's also responsible for employers, the working place, and different sex equality and etc. So that's why maybe it will be good, yeah, for sure, to use equity. So but it's like translation from Lithuania, yeah.
Okay, I see that now the questions have stopped, and there's no more. Nobody is raising their hands. So I would like to thank all of you for participating, and thank the presenters for presenting, and also HEDFA for organizing this webinar. It's very interesting to hear the practices from different countries and also from like slightly different sectors as well. I think this is the kind of exchange that is very useful and fruitful, and I think we can learn from each other a lot. And I think if you have questions, then you can contact like further questions, you can contact the presenters directly as well. Mihailo has already provided his email, but I'm sure you will be able to find the others as well, especially through LinkedIn. I think we are all in the Profeedback webpage. But I would like to give the last words now to Gabor. Yeah, please, Gabor.
Okay, it's a surprise for me that I get the thank you, all of you, for the participation. And I'm just finished with the words that I began in the beginning. If you would like to join Profeedback, any activity of Profeedback, just visit profeedback.eu, where you can find all the possible contact point and all the possible activities you can join. And don't forget, we will have the next conference in Budapest in 18th and 19th of June about youth policy and educational policy. And registration is open for participation. Thank you for all coming today, and have a nice evening.